كتير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, inshallah, we're going to continue the tafsir from the ayah. We have from ayah 72 to, inshallah, ayah number 77 from surat Albaqarah. Today, inshallah, we have to complete the story of the cow or the baqarah or the story that the whole surah have the name of it. Remember last time when we mentioned the story of Al-Baqarah and how it begins when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling his Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam the history of Banu Israel and how they were arguing and how they were disobeying and mocking even from the Prophet Musa alayhi salam when one of them died and they wanted killed and they wanted to know the killer, so they went to ask Prophet Moses to help them to find the killer, and then Prophet Moses told them to bring a cow and to slaughter it. We can see how arrogant they were by keep asking unnecessary questions about the details of this cow. The first order from Prophet Moses, as we mentioned, just any cow. So they started to make it difficult on themselves, that Allah make it difficult on them by a very specification of such a cow, that it is a middle-aged cow and it is the color is golden yellow, which is of course very rare to have such cow, and they still arguing and mentioning to Prophet Moses, tell your Lord in an disobedient way, as if his Lord is not their Lord, to tell them more details regarding that. He told them that this cow is not used in farming or in the ploughing the earth. So after all that, they found this cow and they paid the weight of this cow by gold. The price for that cow was its weight by gold, because it belongs to an orphan boy and he sold it to them by its weight gold. So after that they slaughtered, and this is in ayah 71, فَذَبَحُوهَا وَمَا كَادُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. Then we'll come to ayah 72. وَإِذْ قَتَلْتُمْ نَفْسًا فَادَّارَأْتُمْ فِيهَا. Remember when you killed a person and you were فَادَّارَأْتُمْ means here dispute, coming from dispute, or they start to there was a chaos at that time that they want to know who was the killer. فَادَّارَأْتُمْ. So فَادَّارَأْتُمْ means you being dispute in this in the killer, who was the killer. Wallahu mukhrijum ma kuntum taktumun. Wallahu mukhrijun means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring out what you've been concealing. Taktumun. Because now we're going to know who is the killer at the end of the story. So after they slaughtered the cow in ayah 73, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to them, فَقُلْنَا اضْرِبُوهُ بِبَعْضِهَا, take part of this slaughtered cow and beat it, the body of the killed person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them to beat by part of the cow the body of the killed person, so he will be revived back. But it's a miracle. It's another miracle. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will revive him back. كذلك, so that يحيي means Allah will revive. يحيي الله الموتى, the dead. ويريكم, and show you, آياته, his miracles and his signs, لعلكم تعقلون, you may be having mind or having reason in you, or it is reasonable for you or to you for to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it was a miracle, another miracle they saw by their own eyes, how that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah revived this dead person, dead body. What happened that when they dated by part of the cow, the dead body of the killed person, he was revived back, and he was brought back to life, and he just mentioned the name of the person that killed him. He mentioned that the one who killed him was his nephew. His nephew. Remember at the beginning of the story, we mentioned that the first one who started to arouse this issue was his nephew. He said that my uncle died and I want to know the killer, he's my uncle, and so on. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revived back the killed person, he mentioned that the one who killed him was his nephew, and then he died back, he died again. So it was a miracle, and it was a sign that all of the people at that time seen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revived the dead body again. So after that, as usual, the miracle finished, the time of the miracle passed. So what happened? ثم قست. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we mentioned ثم, يعني ثم usually means then in English, but then after a long time. When you mention about something يعني finished for a long time, you say then ثم. So after long time, قست. قست means that hardened. قست قلوبكم, your hearts became hardened, more hard and hard. من بعد ذلك, after that event. من بعد ذلك. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is describing or making like that their heart like the rock. فهي كالحجارة, like the rock. أو أشد قسوة, or more harder. So he's describing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is resembling their hearts like the rock, but even more harder than the rocks. Why more even harder than the rocks? Because he mentioned وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْحِجَارَةِ لَمَا يَتَفَجَّرُ مِنْهُ الْأَنْهَارُ, which means from the rocks that you will find from the rocks river will be burst forth, will be exploded from the rocks. And this is what we can see in many places in the world, the falls, the rainfalls, and all this. We find a lot of rocks, a lot of mountains that the water is running from them. So وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْحِجَارَةِ, from the rocks, that there will be rivers, the rivers will be burst forth. وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا لَمَا يَشَّقَّقُ. يَشَّقَّقُ means to split. Some of these rocks will be splitted. فَيَخْرُجُ مِنْهُ الْمَاء, through which the springs is coming. You know the springs? The springs is coming out from the rocks. And this is another image that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing how the relation between the rocks and water. The first example was the rivers coming out, or the rainfall that coming out, like the Niagara Fall, for example. And the second is a little bit fewer, but still water coming out from the rocks, like the springs that split out from out of the rocks to come. وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا, and from the rocks, لَمَا يَهْبِطُ, that fall down, مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ, from the fear of Allah. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving an example of what happened with the Prophet Moses when he mentioned to Allah, Rabbi arini anzur ilayk, when he mentioned that he told Allah he wants to see Allah. So, and this is I think in Surah Al-Ma'idah we can find it, this ayah, that when Prophet Moses asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see him, he mentioned to him, you will not see me, لن تراني ولكن انظر إلى الجبل, but look to the mountain, فإن استقر مكانه, if it stayed like it is, you will see me. فلما تجلى ربه للجبل جعله دكا, when his Lord just be near to the mountain fell down. وخر موسى صاعقة, and Musa fell down also. He's lost conscious. He had syncopal attack. So this is referred to this event, لما يهبط من خشية الله, which means from the rocks, what being fell down from the fear of Allah. وما الله بغافل عما تعملون, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was never unaware of what you are doing. Never unaware of what you are doing. So this was the end of the story. And what we mentioned was the conclusion and the summary on the comments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the story of Al-Baqarah, or the cow. Then we'll have ayah 75 will come back to us of what's happening with the Prophet. Remember again, just to be focused, we mentioned that Surah Al-Baqarah was revealed on the Prophet while he was in Medina. And while he was in Medina, he lived with Jews. Jews was present at that time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the first juz of Quran, is defining to us our enemy, and the enemy of Muslims and the enemy of Islam since the early beginning when the Prophet was there was the Jews. So he's giving us their history and how they behaved with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Moses. So it's very important that you will find the ayat is sometimes when at the time of Moses, and then come back to us at the time of Prophet Muhammad, and then go back about their telling us the story during Prophet Moses' time, and then come back during the Prophet Muhammad time. So from ayah 75, now the speech will go back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad by mention أفتطمعون. The word أفتطمعون means do you hope, do you have a hope? This is come to the Muslims at that time that living with them in Medina, and of course for us every time. But when it was revealed on the Muslims and on the Messenger Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam by saying, after what being mentioned from their story now in the Al-Baqarah story, which is the recent one. So Allah is talking to His Prophet and to the believers. أَفَتَطْمَعُونَ, do you hope, do you have a hope, أَنْ يُؤْمِنُوا لَكُمْ, that they believe in you, the Muhammad, to believe in you and your message after what they did with Moses? وَقَدْ كَانَ فَرِيقٌ مِّنْهُمْ, and it was a group of them, يَسْمَعُونَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ, they hear the words of Allah, which is the Torah. Here the words of Allah is the Torah. يسمعون, they are hearing or listening to the words of Allah. ثم يحرفونه. ثم يحرفونه means then they distorted or change the words. من بعد ما عقلوا, after they understood it. So which means that what وهم يعلمون, which means while they are knowing, يعني they are knowing exactly what they are doing. They are knowing that they are changing Torah. They are knowing that they are changing the words of Allah in Torah, and they are doing that intentionally. So the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning this to the Muslims, to the Prophet and to the Muslims, and even to us now, because as we mentioned, the Quran is for every time. It's not only during the time of the Prophet, that those people don't put hope on them, because a group of them, and this is what the reasonability of the Quran, he didn't mention all of them. He mentioned فريق منهم, group of them. Group of them was listening and having the Torah, the scripture of Allah coming to them, and they started to change and to take out words and put others in this Torah. And what else they are doing in ayah 76? وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, if they meet the believers. لَقُوا means if they meet, or when they meet the believers. قَالُوا آمَنَّا, they said, we believe, we are like you Muslims. Okay, so here the Quran is describing another group who are hypocrites. Yani from them are hypocrites also. So when they saw the believers, they mentioned, we are believing in what you believe. وَإِذَا خَلَى بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ, and when they sat together, when they talk together alone, the Jews only, when they are talking to each other alone in their homes, قالوا, they mentioned, أتحدثونهم, do you talk to them, بما فتح الله عليكم, of what Allah has revealed to you from the Torah, because there are the many ayat, as we mentioned, and verse in Torah which is similar to the Quran, in the good manners, in the good conduct. All these things are present in Torah. And also about the tidings, the glad tidings of the presence of the Prophet Muhammad. So those people who pretend to be Muslims from the Jews, they used to speak to the Muslims about these things, that telling them that our scriptures in Torah have like in Quran and description of the Prophet, and we are Muslims like you, and so and so. But during night, when they sat together, those group of Jews, what they are telling, the Quran is telling us what is the conversation happening between them. The conversations that they start to blame each other, why you are speaking to those Muslim and telling them that we have the same things in the Torah, and we have common things, and we have the tidings about your Prophet. Why? So here, لِيُحَاجُّوكُمْ. So they are telling each other, do you talk to them about what Allah has revealed to you, so they can argue? يُحَاجُّوكُمْ is argue. They can argue, means the Muslim can argue with you about it before your Lord during the day of resurrection. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, then will you not reason? So see how much they know everything. They know everything. They know that there will be a day of resurrection. They know that the Muslim will come to at that time and say in front of Allah, or before Allah, that the Jews used to told them that the Torah is one of the holy scriptures, and it was having the tidings of the presence of coming of the Prophet Muhammad. They know all that. And despite knowing all this truth, they still hypocrites and disbelievers. Why they are that? Because of arrogance, because of jealousy, because of the envy that they feel how the last prophet will not come from them. And this is very dangerous that when the person know everything and know the right from wrong, and he denies the right because of his arrogance. This is very dangerous. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us away from such character, because this was the character of Shaitan. The Iblis or Shaitan, he was the first one to commit this sin when he mentioned that I will not prostrate to Adam. And he denied and he refused the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because of his arrogance, because he was jealous from Adam. So Allah in ayah 77 is telling now about that, after he describing their conversation together and how they are telling each other secretly and how they are behaving during the daytime with the believers. So Allah is mentioning أَوَلَا يَعْلَمُونَ. أَوَلَا يَعْلَمُونَ means don't they know أَنَّ اللَّهَ, that Allah يَعْلَمُ knows مَا يُسِرُّونَ وَمَا يُعْلِنُونَ, that Allah knows what they secretly mentioned, what they concealed, وَمَا يُعْلِنُونَ, and what they are declaring. The verbs in يسرون ويعلنون is in Arabic is in the present tense, which means that it's always happening. And this is always happening with the Jews. Group of the Jews are acting like that, pretend to be from Muslims and they are not from Muslims. And when they are together, they start to make the conspiracy and they start to make the bad things against Muslims. So Allah is mentioning here with the present tense in يعلم يسرون يعلنون, that Allah is always knowing what they are concealing and what they are declaring, which means that this it will be present all the time till the day of judgment. Of the Jews will behave like that. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any